Once again, I'll recognize the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. First off, I want to acknowledge my mother, Esther Bethlenfalvy. And, of course, my wife, Paula Hughes, my sister, Carla Bethlenfalvy. Thank you. And finally, my father, Nick, who's in hospital. Dad, get better soon. We're going to have a scotch together real soon. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my honour to rise on behalf of Premier Ford and our entire government to introduce our 2022 budget. Mr. Speaker, it's a budget that says yes to rebuilding Ontario's economy. It's a budget that says yes to keeping costs down for Ontario families and putting more money back in their pockets. It's a budget that says yes for working for Ontario workers. And, Mr. Speaker, it's a budget that says yes to building highways, building transit, and building key infrastructure around our province, in a budget that says yes to keeping Ontario open today and in the future.
Speaker, Ontarians deserve a government that has a real plan to build the province's future.
After 2 long years where the people of Ontario have worked so hard and sacrificed so much to keep each other safe, after working so hard to get Ontario open and keep Ontario open, the people of our province deserve a government that has a real plan to build. Mr. Speaker, this budget, our budget, Ontario's budget, is Premier Ford's vision. And our plan to cut through the excuses, to act right away on the priorities of our plan and our province, this is our plan, and we will get it done. So in that spirit, let's get to our plan. Let's start with our plan to get it done when it comes to rebuilding Ontario's economy. When we came into office, it was clear that we had a lot of work to do. Take manufacturing. The previous Liberal government gave up on manufacturing, full stop. In a time of struggle, manufacturing workers were looking for a government that would fight for them. But the previous government said no. Not only did they fail to challenge the assumption that manufacturing decline was inevitable, they embraced it, to the tune of 300,000 lost manufacturing jobs over the course of more than a decade, Mr. Speaker. Where the Liberals said no, we've said yes. Mr. Speaker, our government took action to bring good jobs back to Ontario. We worked with the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board to provide a rebate for some 300,000 eligible employers so they can pay their workers more, create new jobs, and help grow the economy. We introduced an accelerated capital cost allowance to help businesses invest in new equipment, reduced industrial energy costs by between 15% and 17%, and cut hundreds of millions in red tape. Mr. Speaker, we have released a seamless end-to-end vision and a plan for the auto sector called Driving Prosperity to jumpstart our auto sector with the emerging opportunities in hybrid and electric vehicle production so that Ontario can be an auto leader once again. And we're already getting it done. We're proud to partner with the federal government, municipal governments, and forward-thinking partners in key sectors such as the auto supply chain to transform our auto sector, including Dofasco, on a once-in-a-generation $1.8 billion investment to make Ontario a world-leading producer of clean steel. This investment also secures Hamilton's position as a world leader in steel production, Mr. Speaker, and ensures a sustainable and growing future for the 4,600 people in Hamilton who work there. Honda Canada's $1.4 billion investment to upgrade and retool its Alliston plant so workers there can build next-generation hybrid vehicles right here in Ontario, made by Ontario workers and sold right across North America, and great news for the 4,200 people who work for Honda Canada in Ontario. But wait, Mr. Speaker, there's more. The $2 billion investment by General Motors to pave the way for GM's first ever electric vehicle production line in Ontario at Ingersoll. While supporting continued vehicle production in Oshawa, an investment that will support 2,600 jobs in Oshawa. But, Mr. Speaker, wait, there's more. The largest greenfield investment in over a decade, $5 billion by LG Energy Solutions and Stellantis to build Ontario's first ever large-scale electric vehicle battery manufacturing plant, an investment that will create 2,500 new jobs in the Windsor area. Mr. Speaker, it's worth noting that our commitment to renewing the auto sector is an example of how our government is helping to create clean and green jobs. These investments in clean steel alone are the equivalent of taking 1 million cars off the road. And by ramping up our production of clean steel, hybrids and electric vehicles, we are showing that Ontario can hit our climate targets without imposing a carbon tax. Now, Mr. Speaker, our commitment to rebuilding the auto sector also shows our commitment to ensuring Ontario's prosperity is shared. Chaque petite ville et chaque communauté.
Every little town, every community has so much talent and so much potential, and all of them deserve to prosper. From the north to the east and the southwest, our plan will bring prosperity everywhere and for everyone.
Every small city, every community, rich in talent and opportunity, and they all deserve to succeed. Mr. Speaker, from the north to the southwest to the east, our plan will bring prosperity everywhere for everyone in Ontario. And, Mr. Speaker, we are leading by example. Working with our provincial agency partners, we will ensure communities across the province benefit from good jobs working in government and for provincial agencies, starting with the relocation of the headquarters of the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board to London. And we are looking to headquarter new agencies like Supply Ontario, Invest Ontario, and Intellectual Property Ontario in communities outside of Toronto because, Mr. Speaker, every region in Ontario should have access to the opportunities that these jobs will bring. And while we're at it, Mr. Speaker, it is time to do more to tap into the enormous resource potential spread across the province, starting with the Ring of Fire. Canada is the only country in the Western Hemisphere with all of the raw materials required for a lithium-ion battery, with Northern Ontario producing graphite, cobalt, lithium, nickel, and other required minerals. The Ring of Fire has the potential to bring multi-generational prosperity to Northern and First Nation communities while supporting a homegrown supply chain for battery. In an era of geopolitical instability, seizing our critical mineral opportunity and developing the Ring of Fire is a strategic necessity for Canada. And our government has released our critical mineral strategy, a 5-year roadmap that will make this province a global leader in supplying critical minerals. And a key part of our plan, Speaker, is the corridor to prosperity, of the roads to the Ring of Fire. Mr. Speaker, these roads will help bring critical minerals to the manufacturing hubs in the south, which will bring prosperity to Ontario's north, and help improve access to health care, goods and services, education, housing and economic opportunities for the First Nation communities. Our government is committed to spending up to $1 billion to build critical legacy infrastructure, including all-season roads to the Ring of Fire. And just this month, we reached a historic milestone, Mr. Speaker, with Martin Falls First Nation and Webequie First Nation submitting terms of reference for the proposed Northern Road Link all-season road project environmental assessment. Speaker, we were encouraged when the federal government followed our lead with $3.8 billion for a new critical mineral strategy, and we continue to call on the federal government to join us in this once-in-a-generation opportunity. Speaker, it's time to build the roads to the Ring of Fire. Let's get it done. Just think, Mr. Speaker, when we open up the Ring of Fire, we can mine many of the critical minerals that electric vehicles and batteries require right here. We can produce the clean steel right here. We can train and deploy the labour force we need right here. We can assemble the hybrid and electric cars of the future right here. We can do it all right here in Ontario. For years, the missing piece was a government that was prepared to tie it all together with a real plan. Well, Mr. Speaker, Ontario now has that government. So, Mr. Speaker, let's get it done. Hear, hear. Mr. Speaker, now let's talk about our plan to get it done when it comes to keeping costs down for our Ontario families. Mr. Speaker, as Finance Minister, I watch global economic trends, including inflation, closely. While every party today is paying lip service to the rising cost of living, it's important to check the track record. Over 15 long years in office, the previous Liberal government said no to giving families a break. This was most notable in the hydro debacle, where a parade of well-connected insiders got rich on feed-in tariff schemes, while the price of electricity went up for Ontario families. And of course, then there were the tolls on the 412 and the 418 highway. And of course, Mr. Speaker, the fee increases for license plate renewals and stickers. Well, Mr. Speaker, we've taken a different approach. We're saying yes to helping Ontario families with the cost of living, including when we struck the best childcare deal of any province in Canada. And, Mr. Speaker, we are now taking the next step to help people across Ontario keep a few extra dollars in their pocket right now, so they can pay the rent, pay the bills, pay for gas, and pay for the groceries. Regardless of the curveballs the global economy throws their way, it starts by calling out the nuisance costs and fees that every single day frustrate the people of Ontario. Our government is getting rid of the license plate stickers and renewal fees that have cost so many Ontario drivers so much time, so much money, so much hassle, and so much frustration. Those stickers, they're gone. This on its own will save Ontario drivers $120 a year per vehicle in Southern Ontario and $60 a year per vehicle in the North. We're not done there, Mr. Speaker. We are also providing a refund of eligible fees paid since March 2020. And we're taking steps to protect the people of Ontario from skyrocketing gas prices by cutting the gas tax by 5.7 cents per litre and the fuel tax by 5.3 cents a litre for 6 months beginning July 1st, 2022. And, Mr. Speaker, taken together, these two measures will help save households on average $465 in 2022. So, Mr. Speaker, the other parties would rather talk about inflation than give anything back. But we believe the best way to help the people with the cost of living is to put a few extra dollars back in their pockets. That's why, Mr. Speaker, with our proposed enhancement to the lift tax credit, this government will provide 1.1 million lower-income workers with an additional $300 on average in tax relief in 2022. And, Mr. Speaker, in a measure near and dear to my own constituents and to families throughout Durham, we have also removed the tolls on Highway 412 and 418, It was time to correct this Liberal mistake and give drivers in Durham an overdue break, and we got it done. Mr. Speaker, one of the defining affordability challenges of our time is housing. Our province is growing, Mr. Speaker. Every year, people from across Canada and around the world choose Ontario to build their careers and raise their families here in Ontario. But every single year, they are putting pressure on our housing supply, and the dream of home ownership becomes further and further out of reach. Now, Mr. Speaker, where has the opposition been on the housing crisis, Mr. Speaker? All they want to do is talk. They've never seen a regulation that they didn't like. They've never seen a process they wouldn't like to slow down. Well, not us. We are saying yes to new homes, accessible homes, and affordable homes. We'll let others talk about housing. We're going to build housing right here in Ontario. And in fact, as part of our plan, we will increase the housing supply by building 1.5 million new homes over the next 10 years. It's time to put more housing options within the reach of families who so badly need them. Speaker, when we talk about building new homes for families, we say, let's get it done. So, Mr. Speaker, next I want to talk about our plan to get it done when it comes to building highways and key infrastructure. Ontario's growth is not just putting pressure on housing. It's also putting unprecedented pressure on our roads, on our highways, on transit, and other infrastructure. Today, as I give this speech, tens of thousands of people are stuck on the 400 series highways because for decades the previous government was unable to get things done. The previous government and its transportation minister didn't even try. It's like they were allergic to concrete. Mr. Speaker, they would spend a decade debating the route of a road or the route of a highway or allow the same old interest group vetoes to block things from getting done. Time after time, decisions were kicked down the road, appealed and reappealed, reviewed and re-reviewed, debated and re-debated, or just buried under a growing mountain of red tape. And today, they continue that legacy by criticizing any attempt to build, pandering to those who want to shut down any and all building in the province. Mr. Speaker, there is a million ways to say no, and I believe the Liberal Party has tried all of them, but there's only one way to say yes, Mr. Speaker, and that's under Premier Ford's leadership. We're getting it done. From day one, we have invested to correct Ontario's infrastructure deficit, starting with an historic investment of nearly $4 billion to connect every community to high-speed internet by the year 2025. And now we're taking the next step by building the roads, building the highways, and building the transit Ontario needs. At the heart of our plan is a capital investment of $155 billion over the next 10 years. With planned investments of $20 billion in 22 and 2023 alone, we need to be ambitious, Mr. Speaker. Our plan, and only our plan, includes trains, subways, and highways. Mr. Speaker, the opposition would rather pretend we don't live in a province where millions still drive a car to get to work. And, Mr. Speaker, you cannot fight gridlock without building highways. And that is why we are investing more than $25 billion over the next 10 years for highway projects right across the province, Mr. Speaker, including Highway 413. Highway 413, Mr. Speaker, will save drivers up to 35 minutes on their commute while supporting up to 3,500 jobs per year. It might not matter to the opposition, but it matters to the people of Brampton. Mr. Speaker, it's time to get Highway 413 built. Let's get it done. And, Mr. Speaker, this commitment extends to the Bradford bypass. a new 4-lane freeway connecting Highway 400 in Simcoe County and Highway 404 in York Region. An area of the province expected to experience rapid growth over the next 20 years, the Bradford Bypass will take pressure off Highway 400 and existing east-west roads, finally giving drivers in the region relief from endless gridlock and saving them up to 30 minutes each trip. That is why our government, Mr. Speaker, will get the Bradford Bypass built. We're getting it done. Mr. Speaker, our commitment to building more highways does not end there. In the east, we are starting work to widen the 401 to relieve congestion, starting at Brock Road in Pickering and throughout eastern Ontario all the way to Brockville. And Belleville in between. In Niagara Region, we are restoring the QEW Garden City Skyway, connecting the city of St. Catharines to the town of Niagara-on-the-Lake. But there's more, Mr. Speaker. In the southwest, we are building the new Highway 7 between Kitchener and Guelph. In the north, we are improving Highway 101 through Timmins to support commuters in the local mining and forestry industry. And Speaker, building roads, building bridges, and building highways will end gridlock and get drivers moving again. Our government also recognizes the importance of reliable public transit for commuters and their families, which is why over the next 10 years we will invest over $60 billion for public transit to fuel a huge expansion in subways, to fuel expansion in GO Rail and other vital infrastructure. We're expanding GO Transit rail service from Oshawa into Bowmanville on the Lakeshore East Corridor. We are also expanding London GO Rail service so commuters can travel from London all the way to Union Station. And in the north, we are investing $75 million to help bring passenger rail service back to northeastern Ontario. You know, well, Mr. Speaker, I often wonder if the previous government thought the province ended somewhere just north of Queen's Park. They said no to train service in the north. Well, we are saying yes. And in Toronto, we will finish the job on the Ontario line. This opposition is filled with naysayers who oppose the building of this line, of doubters who said it couldn't or shouldn't be done. Well, Premier, when you broke ground on the Ontario line, you proved them wrong. Mr. Speaker, this government will get the Ontario line done. And, Mr. Speaker, we continue to make progress on the largest subway expansion in Canadian history, including the Eglinton Crosstown West Extension to Toronto Pearson Airport, building a direct line to one of the largest economic zones and employment zones in all of Ontario. And, Mr. Speaker, we're also getting it done for the people of Scarborough. Yes. Last year, we broke ground on the Scarborough Subway Extension. And next, we will move forward on the Shepherd Subway Extension, which will connect the Scarborough Subway to the existing Don Mills terminus. Mr. Speaker, make no mistake. This is what a government can accomplish when it chooses to say yes. This is what a province can build when a government is resolved to get it done. Now, Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about our plan for working for workers. Mr. Speaker, whether we are talking about housing or highways, trains or transit, one question remains. In a time of rising demand, who is going to build all of this? The simple answer is workers, skilled workers, and we need more of them. But for too long, previous governments said no to giving workers a fair shake. They ignored the frustrations of working people who simply wanted a fair shot to compete for the job, with smart and safe protections, and earn an acceptable salary while doing it. Monsieur le Président,
Speaker, it's high time that workers had a government that worked for them, that worked as hard for them as they work for the province.
It's time that workers had a government that works as hard for them as they do for Ontario. And that is what we're going to do. To begin, we're putting more money into their pockets, raising the general minimum wage to $15.50 an hour on October 1st, 2022. We're also ensuring nobody falls through the cracks by extending the minimum wage to digital platform workers, including workers who use ride-sharing apps. We also introduced pay transparency, regular pay periods, and protected them from reprisal when they assert their rights, while maintaining the flexibility that attracts workers to these jobs. Mr. Speaker, our plan also says yes to recruiting more workers in the skilled trades. Mr. Speaker, by 2025, 1 in 5 jobs will be in the skilled trades. These are in-demand jobs, exciting jobs, hands-on jobs, secure jobs that pay well, jobs that require creativity and problem-solving, jobs that allow workers to punch their own ticket and help us build Ontario. They are also jobs that are a victim of an unfair stigma by some who view trade jobs as lesser jobs and trade workers as lesser workers. This corrosive belief is wrong, and that is why our government is investing an additional $114 million over 3 years in our skilled trade strategy to break the stigma against the skilled trades. And Mr. Speaker, we have relaunched our successful Second Career program into Better Jobs Ontario, expanding the program to include those with non-traditional work experience, such as gig workers, newcomers, and the self-employed, so they have every opportunity to build the skills they need to succeed. Mr. Speaker, a 4-year university degree is not the only path to a successful career. Ontario's network of colleges provides hands-on experience and real training for real jobs. That is why we are expanding college degree granting programs to build a pipeline of job-ready graduates in applied fields and help students get into the workforce faster. And we are making it easier for out-of-province workers and newcomers to work in Ontario with a 30-day business day service standard to speed up the process for recognizing their credentials. We're also directing Skilled Trades Ontario to harmonize trading standards with other provinces for about a dozen trades. For new Canadians, Ontario is the first province in Canada to remove license barriers faced by new immigrants. Mr. Speaker, we're investing $67 million over 3 years through the Ontario Bridge Training Program so we can connect well-trained immigrants with in-demand jobs in their communities. Mr. Speaker, our economy needs these skilled workers, and our workers need our support. There's no time to delay. It's time to get it done. And this brings me to the final chapter of our budget, Mr. Speaker, our plan to stay open. We have been tested by the pandemic, Mr. Speaker, and it is likely the tests are not yet done. We can pick one of 2 roads. Some, including some in this House, will choose the road of constantly advocating for closing Ontario. There are the loud voices calling for more restrictions, more mandates, more division and more fear. For every solution, they have a problem. For every shred of optimism, they have a doubt. For every attempt to move forward, they have an obstacle that would take Ontario back. Mr. Speaker, the second road does not take anything for granted. Rather than meet the challenges with surrender, we tackle them head-on. Our government has provided billions in targeted supports to help businesses throughout the pandemic, and we're investing an additional $300 million in our surgical recovery strategy. And now we are taking the next step by making record investments in hospital beds, long-term care beds, and in the nurses, doctors, and support workers on the front lines of our health care system. And, Mr. Speaker, through our new 10-year, $40 billion hospital capital plan, our government is making investments in communities that have not seen a new hospital project in decades. In Brampton, where our government is transforming the William Osler Health System's Peel Memorial Hospital into a new inpatient hospital with a 24/7 emergency department. In Kitchener-Waterloo, where the Grand River and St. Mary's General Hospital joint redevelopment project will lead to a new joint acute care facility. Back there. And near and dear to my heart, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Minister Elliott, in Uxbridge, where the Uxbridge Hospital redevelopment project will create a community health hub with nearby long-term care services. I think that's good. I think that's good. Mr. Speaker, in Windsor, where we are in the planning stages for a new state-of-the-art acute care facility. And, Mr. Speaker, in Scarborough, where our government is investing to build a new inpatient tower and renovate the existing Birchmont Hospital site, the first phase of which includes an expansion of the emergency department expected to support 50,000 patients each year. So, Mr. Speaker, from Collingwood and Kingston to Muskoka to Chatham-Kent and Thunder Bay and Ottawa, to the single largest infrastructure investment in the history of Ontario, to build a state-of-the-art Mississauga hospital, to expanding the Queensway Health Centre in Etobicoke. Speaker, these investments represent the most ambitious plan for hospital expansion in Ontario's history. Mr. Speaker, this is supporting more than 50 major hospital projects and adding 3,000 new beds over the next 10 years. Mr. Speaker, we are also making investments for the long-term care sector. After inheriting a broken system from the Liberal government, less than 700 new beds, net new beds, were built by the previous government from 2011 to 2018. They left our entire long-term care sector teetering on the brink. Mr. Speaker, 0 new beds in Ajax, 0 new beds in Pickering. Those are just 2 of the communities that were left behind. Mr. Speaker, Ontario seniors deserve better. Ontario families deserve better. And our government is delivering. We are saying yes to new beds and better beds, beds that provide comfort and dignity to our seniors. Mr. Speaker, we now have over 31,000 new and over 28,000 upgraded beds in the development pipeline. And, Mr. Speaker, in February of this year, we completed the first long-term care home built through our accelerated building pilot. Lakeridge Gardens, built in partnership with Lakeridge Health, was completed in just 13 months. And this new long-term care facility will feature 320 long-term care beds on the campus of the Ajax Pickering Hospital. We aren't waiting, Mr. Speaker. No more excuses. We are getting it done. But, Mr. Speaker, a bed at a long-term care facility should not be the only option for seniors requiring care. Our loved ones and their families deserve the opportunity to find the care that's right for them, including in the comfort of their own homes. Our seniors have done so much to build this province. That is why our government is taking action to support them in their choice of where they wish to receive the care they need, to allow more seniors to stay in the homes they love, to live there longer. Our government is investing $1.5 billion over the next 3 years to expand home care. And we are proposing a new Ontario Seniors Care at Home tax credit to help seniors and their families with home care medical expenses, which include attendant care, breathing devices, hearing aids, and walking aids. This tax credit will build on the Seniors Home Safety Tax Credit, which helps cover the cost for stair lifts, handrails, and other renovations to help make homes safe and accessible, so we can preserve our hospital and long-term care beds for those who truly need them the most. Mr. Speaker, our plan is to stay open, and it takes immediate action to support the front lines of our healthcare system, who have done so much to keep us safe. We are providing Ontario nurses with a retention bonus of up to $5,000, and we're making the wage enhancement to more than 158,000 personal support workers permanent. And, Mr. Speaker, we've gone even further to support our front lines. Since March 2020, our government has added 8,600 healthcare workers, and now we are investing an additional $230 million to deploy thousands of healthcare students to hospitals. Help up to 1,000 internationally licensed nurses get accredited and into our healthcare system faster. And through our new Learn and Stay grant, 2,500 eligible post-secondary students who enroll in priority programs such as nursing will receive tuition support if they choose to work in the regions where they studied after graduation. Mr. Speaker, building our capacity while making sure that every region in Ontario has access to quality health care is our plan, and we are getting it done. And, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that our province never again has to rely on foreign jurisdictions for equipment, vaccines and other critical supplies, our government is supporting the production of Ontario-made PPE. Mr. Speaker, today over 92% of Ontario's PPE will come from Canada or Ontario, made in Canada by Canadian workers, including the production of N95 masks and a newly expanded facility in Brockville. And we're investing in our life sciences so that we can support the development and manufacturing of vaccines and other therapies right here in Ontario. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by highlighting how our plan to get it done is a responsible one. After years of a government that spent on the short term instead of building for the long term, Ontario now has a plan to invest and invest responsibly. Over the next 3 years, our plan will see spending increase by an average of 5% per year, with important investments in healthcare, in education and critical infrastructure, supported by a credible recovery plan that will eliminate the provincial deficit 2 years earlier than projected in the 2021 budget. Mr. Speaker, we have a plan, and that plan is working. But the work is not over yet, and the job is not yet done. It's time, Mr. Speaker, to finish the job. And there is only one party in this House capable of the strong financial management necessary to make the investments that our province needs. That is this party, and this is the government led by Premier Ford. Mr. Speaker, we are the party of yes. We are the party of opportunity. We are the party of hard work and big dreams. We are the party of better jobs and bigger paychecks. We are the party that is looking to the future with confidence and optimism. Mr. Speaker, we have a real plan that is working. C'est notre plan pour passer à l'action.
It is our plan to act.
To get it done for the people of Ontario. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.